discuss our 23-24 budget. I guess we'll start with,
Adopt the agenda.
yeah.
Have to accept it.
Subject matter of the meeting is to discuss the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget.
I'll
Have a
move that.
motion.
I
I have a
move it.
first by Mr. Lawrence,
Second.
second by Mr. Tisdale. All in favor? 6-0. All right, we'll start with the mayor's report.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. In your packet, you have the microscopic version of what we're going to discuss today. This is both combined statements, non-departmental, and also revenues. The last workshop that I wasn't able to attend, but I think there was some concern about where we are with revenues and differences between revenues and expenses and some of those long-term plans. To kind of set the stage for what you have in front of you, if you look at things want versus need, I think this budget reflects what is needed based on the conditions that we're in. Over the last, revenues have been kind of flat, but they've been record revenues for the last 3 years, from 2019, 2020. And so we're at about 72 million. Correct me if I'm wrong. My crack accounting team is right over my shoulder. But basically, we've had some, in this budget, we've, reflected a couple of things. One whole full year of raises that was done the year before, about $1 million in additional property tax. There's a settlement that was a longevity issue that cost an additional $500,000. There's a number of items that we've been stacking up, but we were able to successfully capitalize these items. And for instance, the PD had about $2.1 million worth of equipment that actually is in this budget, and not really, we capitalized that and a couple of other items. So we're reflecting, I think, a decent position for the revenue outlook. We're still aggressive in gaming revenue, sales tax revenue, and I think even in court, over the last month, our fines increased $20,000. And that's directly responsible, you can attribute that to some of the conversations we've had about being able to enforce the fines and maybe folks be taking it seriously. So I don't want to get into a lot because I know you got some public hearing, but basically we put a realistic budget, and now it goes into a little bit of uses of the year-to-date gain or loss. We're anticipating, I think, even a little, and Diane and I kind of argue, and she sees one point and I see another point, but I think we may be a little bit more favorable in cash balance, but we're not programming that. So I think the 6.67 in the middle of your combined statement, do you see that? 6.8, yeah. There could be some, some more margin there, but in addition to some other opportunities, sales taxes is, on a good track. I did mention the other day, I think it was on Super Talk, on where we are with regard to, number of months over $1 million, a record number. This past month was 1.4 million in our diversion. And in conversation with George Gilbert, I think, talking about, 1.4 million, well, that 1.4 million is 18.5% of what is actually sent to the state. So we sent 7.567 million to the state on the $100 or so million dollars worth of business that was done, and the diversion was 1.4. State got 6 million out of it too. So a number of things are happening that way. So we're doing the best for what I think we're doing as good as can be expected with regard to revenue, and then tightening up our expenses is the goal of this budget. Again, and we're able to get into all of this with you. I think it's set up where, discuss primarily the general fund, but, the individual revenues versus, some of the non-departmental that was we were able to do some things. We moved insurance back into the administration. So I'm prepared to discuss any aspect that you might bring up here with regard to the budget. But I'm comfortable with the budget. It's what we need. All our, our departments, the fire department and the police department, we've been very cooperative on skinnying back what is needed. And I assured both of them, if we're able to cash in on these opportunities with vacancies, we'll come back and if it's not in the budget, we'll go after it. So those are public safety is our top priority, and have them the best equipped as well as best people that we can get. And that I got to take a breath, and I'll say that concludes my report.
In summary, on the mayor's sheet, which is the one that's printed top to bottom like this, on that sheet, you will notice that the starting fund balance is 6.8 million. That's essentially what you saw the last time.
What line is that?
Top, cash.
Top right, general fund,
Beginning cash.
beginning cash.
Column 7,
The next
item 1.
down would be total revenues of 74 million. That's a $2 million increase over what you saw last workshop. 2 million more revenue. The next section is expenses. 79 million is $1 million less than what you saw in the last workshop. That's a change since the last workshop. Down next further is total non-department of 1.8 million. That's $100,000 below what it was. And then if you go all the way to the bottom, you'll see that the starting fund balance, the ending fund balance is $267,000 positive. Now, what I'm assuming that your questions will be, so
Don't assume.
what specific?
Don't assume any questions.
Okay, don't assume any questions.
Okay, so what we'll do is open it up for any questions, and we'll start all the way to the left with Mr. Lawrence. Are you ready, or do you want me to come back to you?
Now, on the 325 that you received from the state on the first page, who sent us that money? Where'd that money come from? The 325,000 right here, rebate. You said it's
When you look at
insurance.
the revenues?
It comes from who? First page, rebate, 325,000.
What line, George? Tell them what line number.
Yeah, I don't know what line it is.
State fire insurance
17.
rebate, line
Yes,
17.
That's the fire insurance rebate. We get that every year. We fill out our paperwork with, I think it's the county or the
That's
state.
my question. Who sends it to you? You said it's
It
state
comes
insurance?
from the county or the state. I think it's the state.
The state reimburses us that for the rating,
Yes,
for our ratings? All right,
yeah.
that was one I just wanted to,
Yeah, we fill out a form that has different information on it.
all right. And when you said at 267, Mike, where was that at?
At the bottom line, item 77, column 7. Line 77, column 7. 267, that's the ending cash that we're guessing and assuming.
Okay, so the 6.5 is what we actually have in money, or that's
That's
negative?
what we're anticipating at this point. I'm a little bit more aggressive. So the cash at the end of on September 30, we're guessing was it 8? Yeah. So we're going to, again, some of the extraordinary things will let us work into that money at this end of but we anticipate 297 or 267 at the end of the ballgame. If all these, in history, we've never busted a budget. So therefore, we've already been in, the ending is a little bit of a guess.
And on the baseball operation, this is our expenses, the 314? Let's see, that's line 37.
Line 37, 331,500. Baseball stadium operations. On this sheet.
What year are we talking about? Baseball, line 37, right?
Yeah, 37.
Yeah. That's 300
Baseball stadium.
budgeted, yes,
operations.
it's going up a wee bit, right? That's expenses at the stadium. our expenses, which is insurance and power and electricity, yeah.
Yeah. And then on the, same thing on the rents is, 420,000, let's see, that's, 60. You got 420,000 baseball operation. Where'd that come from, 420,000 for rent? I know we
Line item.
leased in the field for 150,000.
What line item?
Yeah,
That's
what-
line 60.
Councilman, what line on the left-hand side?
60. 60.
I'm
60.
I'm in the wrong, 60,
Transfer general fund to capital?
no, he's in
Transfer
revenue,
water,
he's in
sewer,
revenues
general
on
fund.
rents. 60 on rents.
Yeah, 420,000 and 90,000 on the
4.2 million,
baseball
right.
side.
We're all on different sheets.
You got the detail on it? Yeah, he's in the revenue statement, right? And then here's baseball. Here's baseball.
I don't know how we.
Yeah, he's been baseball. Look at column.
It would be helpful if the council and we were on the same sheet.
Okay, we're in a revenue statement. Rents, 420,000 baseball operations is what the revenue we're expecting, right here.
Right,
This is from baseball, in the baseball fund. That's what, you talking about the 420,000 you say, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that's.
that's revenue, that's
Yeah, but
what,
like, yeah. What'd you rent for 420,000 at the baseball stadium?
well, we got $150,000 worth of, those.
For the team, I know we do that.
Rent's 150, yeah.
Rents, and then, and ticket sales, and any other, thing that we've been collecting on. But we do anticipate 420,000
Yeah.
in rent of the stadium.
That does not take into account the parking garage.
Yeah, but I'm saying that's what we're budgeting. 420,000 in rent.
The ticket sales, did you change when you dealt with this new contract?
No, it's the same.
Still $2?
Same, yeah.
So, but you still limited it to what, like 335,000 people? You can't collect past that. It was the number, it's all in the contract originally.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not a ton of money one way or the other.
yeah.
I mean, I was just trying to figure out, that's,
But you got that tax rebate, which is, the sales tax rebate that contributes, what is it, about 60,000? And ticket sales, that's 100 and something thousand? 50 a month for 4 months, right? Yeah, so that reconciles them, at least in my mind, that's right.
It's up.
This is what we're going
I mean, I just thought that was a lot, 510 in the baseball, to take that much money.
All the rent, the normal rent, as well as just for them to rent the stadium and we let them use it, and then the actual ticket sales and the tax rebate, sales tax rebate, which I think Diana just says about 40,000. It had been in the past, based on we're the owner of the stadium and we get a rebate up to whatever, 75% of the sales tax collected. So that comprises the revenue column of baseball.
And the other question, I know Peter had talked about this before on the Point Cadet, where we're leasing the land, we get paid for the casinos and that down there. It's always been like 3.2 million. Is there any way
It's
we
the podium
could?
lease. The podium lease?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we rent
It's
the
in gaming, isn't it?
I mean, I can't believe that we can't,
It's in rents?
that.
It's in rents? Yeah.
that we can't move that and let them pay more money like
Well,
everything else.
Again, that's a lawyer kind of situation, and we've been trying to do
I know we've
everything
been
in the
there 2 or
world.
3 times trying to get them to
Well,
change stuff.
He's the rent man right now on podium lease, but yeah, no, that's definitely on our radar, and we could realize a little bit stronger situation there in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
CPI did go up, right? Okay. Every 5 years, you get an adjustment, and it did go up.
we
Not as
look-
much as we wanted to go up, but, it did.
And then I noticed the 3 million that you moved out of the non-contract back to your office with the
Yeah,
insurance.
and that was insurance.
What's the reason for that? Are we saving money? Or do we,
No, it's the same amount of money. We just put it in an administration department. So you're actually looking at the 1.8 million in non-departmentals is pure non-departmental revenue, and that's stated as we revised it and we suggested here, and that's all in that column. So it kind of got diluted when you had insurance with non-departmental, because it really is the administration of everything is where that 3.67, is that what it was? Million back into the general fund and in the administrative department.
Yeah, but I mean, so last year was 3.1, this year you said it was 4.3, then you got a rebate of
4.05.
192,000 that was lower. So it's actually 4.1. So what do you have in the budget for next year?
4.05.
Okay, so I want to know, because
Yeah.
if we can save some money, that's $1 million you can save.
Well,
right
you know,
there. So,
no,
we
it-
just put it back what it was, 3.1, instead of keeping it
Well,
full.
you know,
'Cause that's what
again,
happens
there's
next
a
year. What
calculation.
about that next year?
You know,
I mean, right
again,
now, you're trying to cut money out of your budget, save stuff.
well,
That's-
it's a guess. Like I said, you know, right now, being conservative and playing on a worst-case scenario, and I think we put about 5% more, or 10%? 5% more. So, you know, we don't want to have any surprises. We could, you know, this is guess numbers. We could guess down, but when it comes in the middle of the year, when things flush out, that's when it hit, just like it did last year. In September, at this point in time, we didn't anticipate that hit. You know, and so we be in front of it. Now, you know, you heard Frank Bordeaux and some of the insurance folks talk about the world, and not just some of the storms, but the different scenarios with war and some of these other things that really hit it. That really caused it. So I think this is a reasonable estimation, and we'd be pleasantly surprised if it's less. And we'll take every opportunity to make sure, you know, we're with the wisest part of, you know, our risk. You know, if we can fade this or not, you know, do what we can internally, we'll do that and take a reasonable risk.
It's just up to me. I said before, you can look at that. If you got 3.1 for insurance, that's what you buy, $3.1 million worth of insurance. And you know, unless you get totally wiped out, you never recover anything anyway. So, yeah, I
Well,
mean,
and,
X
you know-
amount of dollars. So, I mean, I'm talking about when you're trying to adjust your budget.
Well, you know, like I said,
numbers
this
you
is a
can look
guess.
at, right.
But, you know, to me, if you and I were talking, you know, it was just me and you in a business, but we have, you know, the whole, you know, population of Biloxi to worry about. I would rather overestimate and be pleasantly surprised than say, hey, man, you know, I told you, and then we have the discussion on how we're going to put another $1 million in a deal.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, again, I expect to be in at this point in time next year, to be in a much more favorable position than, you know, $267 million, $267,000 in cash. But I understand your point.
Yeah. Okay. So what do you want to do here, Nathan? Anything we want to talk about me right now, or you want to go down the line
Just
first?
any questions that you have on the budget?
In 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And I can come back to you if you want to look over it more.
I'll look at some of the stuff we already went through. That's what I'm saying. If you want to go and pass me and just come back.
Yeah, if you have something else.
As
that
far
we-
as this thing, I mean, I just looking at this, so.
Okay.
That's the quick questions I had. I may have some suggestions for later, but if you want to go through everybody.
Okay,
On
we'll do
this part here, then we'll come back to it.
All right, Mr. Guines. Can you pull your microphone to you? No, any questions? Yeah, on the budget that you have for the administration,
What about non-departmental?
anything?
Okay.
That's what I just asked you.
We did the annual Juneteenth celebration, and I would like to create a spot for it for Juneteenth and the MLK celebration, create a separate spot for it. Those are holidays we've always celebrated, and I wanted to put some money aside for that. Hopefully, we can just create a section with MLK and Juneteenth, $20,000, $10,000 apiece. That would be my ask. That's all. That's all. Bless you.
God bless
That's all. That's my only ask.
20, you said
Could you repeat those figures again? Mr.
10 apiece, 20,000 total. That's all. Just a little bit, few peanuts.
Councilman, what do you want us to put in the budget for Juneteenth? 10?
10 and 10 for MLK and Juneteenth. Create a separate one for both
Right now,
for-
there's no
for-
money in for MLK.
There's no money in that area. I wanted to create another section for Juneteenth and MLK.
Did we ever get any requests, any written requests from these organizations, or, okay?
And that'll be used as city discretion.
We can do that. Got it.
All right. Ms. Newman? Mr. Deming?
Mr. Mayor, in your report, your mayor's report at the beginning of this meeting, did you mention vacancies?
Vacancies,
I thought I heard you mention.
personnel vacancies, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, prime example, let me just take, I'm not picking on the PD, but we had some vacancies. We have vacancies right now that we're trying to fill. I think we've been progressive in what we've, you know, of course, we've done a pretty good job with regard to our patrolman's pay. We'd like to do more, but we're short patrolmen right now, and we were able to, I think, put 6 in play. And we needed even more. I think the chief has some very great goals and where we need to be, people on the street. And there was some, in the first go around, there was about 6 or 7 more vacancies that would be there. But, you know, again, I assured him, if, you know, let's go forward with what we have. We can reduce, you know, the numbers as far as just the budget. But, you know, if we get the opportunity and we can put 10 more people on the street, we'll come back and ask for that. But he still has some vacancies, and he's still pursuing patrolmen. And we gave him all the equipment that was in there, too. So he's got new cars and 3 more on the way very shortly. So there's still some vacancies in what we have come back to, you know.
So,
proposing.
right, we can come back and re-budget for those vacancies. We're trying to close the gap, and that was my concern, is we're gonna pull some of those vacancies. But one of the questions that I wanted to ask you guys is, like, if we pull vacancies that aren't filled right now, that cost us numbers in the budget, right? For Chief Geiser and for Chief Miller, I don't know how does that affect our ISO ratings?
As far as positions in the fire department.
So with the ISO rating, there's a multitude of factors that factor into that. One is personnel. Personnel is one of those areas that we've talked in a 3 to 5 year plan that we'd like to bump up significantly, but over time, we don't want to shock the system. But yes, the more numbers that we throw at a fire alarm, of course, plays into how they rate our response. And when we get evaluated or audited every 4 years, we've got to show that we're showing 17 plus personnel at this, which either means we send more units, which if we do that, it would vacate a particular area, or we throw more people on the trucks, which gets us to those.
We're really looking for we're at about 3 right now per piece of equipment. Now we need to go to 4.
Yes, at least in those very key areas, in the south portion and some of the busier areas in the north.
For budgeting purposes, have we removed any vacancies from the fire department?
No, you still have some vacancies that are coming in and out. You got a number of positions, right?
Yes, sir. Right now, we're being real cautious on trying to bump up. We did remove some vacancies in this budget year.
And that's
but it
not going to
was-
affect, I mean, if it affects our ISO rating, that hurts all of the local business owners, right? That hurts everybody in the community by decreasing our rating. So these vacancies, that we took that into consideration, I'm assuming.
Yes,
And it's
yes.
not going to affect the ISO rating.
No. What we did was we talked about, so the other part of a major component of the ISO rating is also the infrastructure work that we're doing. So we're still not quite there. It's got to be completed before we can get the full points for that. So what we're doing is like I said, a 3 to 5 year plan. We'll probably get an ISO audit this coming year, 2024. We will hold most likely at the current ISO 2, which is best in the state. I think us and Gulfport are the only. And then our future plan in the next 4 years would be to complete that project, get that additional personnel, and that way we would have a real good chance of being the first ones to get that ISO 1.
Okay. Thank you, Chief Geiser.
Yes, Chief, I think I would ask you to ask the chief about, you know, his goals as far as where we need to be, putting more officers in the street at any one point in time. And you know, that may come back and we're able to get 5 more and 10 more that would impact us, you know, from just insurance and every other aspect of our city.
I'd like to point out that no vacancies in the police department have been removed. There's a few that have been unfunded, but the vacancy itself is still there. It's what the mayor was talking about earlier. We still have vacancies, even though those vacancies are not funded right now, we still have vacancies that we can fill. And the mayor has assured us that if we reach that number, that he'll go back and we'll find a way to add them in. So we're not gonna, if we can hire quality policemen, we're not gonna turn them away. I think is what the mayor was saying.
It's fair to say we're not defunding, we're just unfunding.
Yeah, unfunded. Yeah, so big difference, you know, because a lot of our grants are based on what our numbers are. So as long as they stay in the budget and they're not removed, you know, at one time we'd actually, if they weren't funded, we actually removed them from the budget. But now they stay there. They're just not funded positions currently.
So it doesn't have an impact on our bottom line for this budgeting process?
It does not, right.
Great. Thank you, Chief. I appreciate that.
Can I say something about vacancies real quick?
Yep.
Please? Looking at one of the sheets that you had in the book, talked about vacancies citywide. Vacancies are just a natural occurrence, you know, in a 600-plus man, woman, person, employee group.
Good job.
There's going to be churn, and there's going to be, but we started 2023 with 125 vacancies citywide. We're starting this year with 85 vacancies citywide. So we're going in the right direction in terms of floating, but we're just not carrying a whole bunch of vacancies now that, in a budget that if we don't think we can hire them. But there's still 85 citywide vacancies that are in the budget.
Right. Well, thank you, Mike. I know I talked last time about expanding contractual services, and the one thing that I wanted to look at, I know we have like 11.2 million in public works.
Contractual, yeah, we went up about 1.7 million in that area.
Did you ever compile a list of things that we could or couldn't do as a city contractually?
Well, I haven't compiled a list, at least a list in my head. But, no, but we did, you know, emphasize that we're dropping back in our in-house personnel. We added 1.7 to the public works budget.
What does that give us? So if we add
Gives us
if we were projecting 1.7 more into contractual, what does that give us on the
Well,
back
you know,
end?
ability to hire a crew to clean things and.
I know what it does. I mean, how much money does it save us on the back end? If we're going to 1.7 more in contractual services, how do we account for the savings? Do we have a way to account for the savings, or are we just waiting to see how that work plays out this year?
Yeah, I think, you know, and there's a number of companies that, of course, you know, provide certain services that Christie could, you know, get more, but, you know, in the paving, the repair, the cleaning, streets and drainage, and some of the ditch cleaning. And so that's what we're guessing about, but we can certainly, you know, define that further. But we do have some play in that budget, so we can, you know, we'd like to spend every bit of it to provide every bit of those services that we're struggling to do now.
We've been doing this since about 2015 or 16. When did you take office? You took office in 15, right?
Yeah,
So I think
15.
Just seems like forever.
It does, doesn't it? So we started doing this. Considerable years ago.
Yeah,
It would be interesting to see what we're spending
Right.
per year on contractual services versus what it saves us on in-house labor. And there's a way to do it. We could create a percentage per dollar, right? $1 per whatever.
An analysis of what bang for the buck and what can we do better in the house. So I'll give you one example. I think Billy Ray's indicated just the cemetery. You know, it's not a perpetual care cemetery, but we perpetually care for it. And there's about 6 people related to that, but we're asking for actual contractual services that would free 6 men. You know, we did a little bit of the cleanup on Highway 90, and we pulled people off the cemetery, pulled people off Parks and Recreation to do that. But that's we get a good bid, you know, with a third party, a contractual lawn care for only, you know, 8 months of the year instead of 12 months of the year. And it puts us in a little bit better situation. Maybe, you know, instead of $15 an hour, maybe $20 an hour, but it's only 8 months, and we have no PERs, you know, peers and some of these other constraints that when we hire somebody, that we're obligated to, you know, to put them to use. So that's the angle, if that helps a little bit. One example would be third-party, you know, care of our cemetery.
Right, and that's great, and how much did that save us? That's what I would like to know,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
Dollar per dollar. Director Bell, you sent me an email regarding the PO. We come up here real quick. I want to make sure we get this covered.
Regarding the what?
You sent me an email regarding the PO about the lights at the park.
Yeah, the dog park lights, they're getting completed next week.
You sent me something saying about the two arenas.
They're also going to remove the two lights that were, that they couldn't move earlier because of the nest. Those are being removed also, which would complete the removal of all the light poles.
Okay, is that what you refer to as arena? I don't know what RENA is.
So,
That's the ones that had the osprey nest on top? Okay, and so we'll have those removed and we'll be prepared to install new lights as long as they're funded? Is that
yes.
correct?
Yes.
And we have that, right? Mike, we've got a PO for that. We've got that.
That's one of the projects that the ARPA money was slid over into capital projects to take care of.
Okay, thank you. So
That's
looks like we'll
really
get that done.
Call as to when.
Pardon me?
I'm saying it's a mayor call as to when we're going to pull that plug. Money's there.
We'll pull the trigger, not the plug. See, you pull the trigger first and then you pull the plug.
I just was checking to see if you were paying attention.
Then you put the bullet in.
Thank you, Ms. Bell.
Okay.
That's all I have for now. I'll reserve my right to readdress this.
All right, thank you. Mr. Tisdale?
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand the big pictures with the numbers changed this week. So I'm looking at the combined fund statement. Excuse me, line one, the general fund, the yellow column.
Yeah.
Shows the beginning cash balance of $6,850,000. Right, okay. And then on line item 11, the projected revenues for this year, $74,282,997. And then line 24, the total departmental expenditures is $79,587,192. Is that correct? Okay, so right there, just looking at the numbers, we're 5 million underwater.
Well, let me ask, please note that departmental in administration jumped by that transfer from non-departmental up into that area. Okay, so we took it out of non-departmental and put it into departmental expense, state insurance.
Okay, so that accounts for the diminished figure.
Right.
The diminished figure under total all non-departmental expenses of 1.8 million. Okay, and when we looked at the figures that we moved, what does that 1.8 million dollars
It's this page right here.
represent?
Pretty much all the non-departmental.
Okay, all the remainders, and okay. All right, then we go down to the total. Then we go down to line 50. Total expenditures $81,387,892. Correct.
Right.
Okay, and then at the very bottom line, 77. We're going to finish based on the beginning cash balance and our expenditures and revenues. We're going to finish with $267,155.
What the number says, yeah.
Okay. In the past, we've always had millions down there, I believe, but we're just a little over $250,000.
Yeah. Again, I mentioned in my mayor's report about the extraordinary things that had happened from the beginning of '23 to
Right.
where we are now and what we're anticipating in '24. Again, we realized a little bit of growth in revenue, but we're at record level as far as revenue, and I wouldn't feel good about sandbagging revenue in any stretch. But we did take a look at one example with fines. We're doing better with fines. We're doing better with I guess sales tax. Right. But this is something I think it represents what's needed, and we're hopeful that we actually start out with a little bit better, little stronger beginning of the year 24, and of course, end up with a stronger ending of the year 24.
I would just make an observation. People hear about record sales tax, record gaming, but it's without some context. It doesn't mean that we have more money than ever, with a lot more money to spend than ever before.
Let me say about that 6-point start. That's pretty much a result of the year-to-date revenues against expenses. We get in with more cash, than was estimated. So, I mean, we're using what we're going to make in 23 to fund the 24 budget. The fund balance, in other words, the cash balance is, I think, part of, and we can anticipate, in 3 or 4 weeks. This is me guessing. No,
This is the part that's not on paper?
That's right.
Okay.
So, but I mean, we could be stronger, and that means the bottom line will be stronger. We'll hold to this budget, and we'll probably be beating this budget again, like we do year after year. So I'm not, some of that starting cash balance is because we did a good job, revenues against expenses, and, and we grew some, and we got hurt some too with regard to the hits in the insurance and the hits in the increase of to settle up a class action suit, just the longevity pay. That's $500,000 there.
Right.
And those are things we didn't anticipate. It's some action being taken place. But we passed that to everybody and not just one. So I mean, we are paying folks with that in mind. So those are some things we got to deal with. We just can't say we're not going to do that. So we're going to do what we do, which we keep our employees well paid as much as we can do. But I'm not afraid to use what we've gained this year, and I think part of that $6 million is what we've gained. What we will have, the difference in September 30th.
Yes, sir. I'm going to jump in while there's a pause.
Okay, good breath.
I don't think it's going to be popular with my friends on this side of the bench, but what I'd recommend we consider is a $2 million increase for employee salaries and benefits, based on the fact that although we're not eliminating positions, we know that we won't fill all our positions that we have this year. I think that's fair to say. We've struggled probably for the last couple of years to have all of our vacancies filled within the city. Right now, if I understood the numbers, we started the year with 125 vacancies, and we currently have about 85 vacancies, I believe Mr. Leonard said. So that's about a 12% of our employees that aren't on the payroll that we'd love to have on the payroll, and we seem to have a tough time getting them employed with the city. And I'm assuming part of that is the starting wage, given the fact that starting wages in other places may be a little better than ours, and the fact that we're going to be looking at some sort of increase for health insurance. Mr. Glavin, myself, and Mr. Lawrence will meet tomorrow with Cy Easterly and Cadence and talk more about the kind of. I know you're waiting on a number from us, I believe, and we want to get you that number. But I just know that the fact that we have to be more competitive with sworn officers, I mean, we got to figure out how to get more officers on our payroll.
You talked long enough. I forgot my retort on this thing. But as far as millage, you did.
That's okay. I'm going to talk some more, and I'm going to talk some more and give you an opportunity to pick up that thread.
No, your point is well taken, and I think the point is we need to be the best we can ever be, and you can't do it without a realistic assessment of where we need to be in revenues and expenses. We've got a big churn, about keeping a lot of retirements. I think we're 1 or 2 a month in the fire department, don't we? And so I mean we've got to keep rolling. Right. And the same thing with PD, and in everywhere, and people are retiring, and just it's 20 years plus, and that sort of thing. So it's an ongoing churn, as Mike said. But millage, I think in a year or so, she'll kick me if I'm wrong, but I think we'll be freeing up a mill in about a year and a half, right? Yeah, so that would be offsetting that. I think I would ask us to be patient with regard to that. I think we actually freed a little bit of a mill this year. We already freed another mill. So that mill is worth $750,000, $737. So another $1.5 million. I think we can be creative with, with the $1.5 million in doing what we need to do, because that really kind of, we want to do the best we can without really, just keeping our little record intact 27 years without really impacting that millage.
I know we're still working on the record, and I've kind of have been patient. I've kind of gently tried to nudge everybody for the past few years. You know that, and it's just that we're having a tough time competing in the market for sworn officers. We really need them, and it would be one thing if retirements are scheduled in such a manner that we would lose 2 or 3 folks a year, but it comes in clusters and clumps, and you understand that. All right, since you and I both mentioned millage, I did have a question about mills. We dedicated this current fiscal year, 2/100ths of a mill for solid waste collection and disposal. That comes to, I don't know, about 14 grand. I talked with Mr. Leonard about this earlier, and in past years, that millage dedicated for solid waste collection and disposal, I'm talking 2000, 1999, and so forth, was 4 mills. And over the years, it's been decreased. In fiscal year 16, it was 1.25 mil, and then it was reduced to, in fiscal year 18, to 2/100ths of a mil. I don't know what the money goes for, but
I can answer that question.
Go ahead, Mike, thank you.
We have a gap, always will have a gap on sanitation services, between what we're able to collect from our citizens and what we have to pay. Because it's more than just the HCUA residential garbage bill. We also have weekly bills from the dump for our trucks that are going around picking up all the extra trash. And we still have dumpsters also that we pay, and there are a number of expenses that are across the board exceed what we're able to collect.
Right, that makes sense. I know we had talked about it the other day, but I appreciate that. That makes sense. The next question I have is, thank you for waiting patiently, wait just a little longer. So the other question I have is there anything that prohibits us from raising the millage to help in solid waste collection and disposal to help offset the cost to the residential taxpayers? This $7, whatever it is, increase.
Talking about a subsidy.
Yeah. I mean, that reduces the millage necessary for the general fund. It kind of, you got to twist your butt. I'm just asking the question, is there anything that prohibits us from doing that?
Anything's possible, but let me throw another aspect of where the value of the mills we do have in place. Just one example, we got 1,200 apartments coming in on board ARA, right, in this coming year. So that assessed value is going to grow. You think 3%, 5%? Total for what we're anticipating this year. But there's going to be a number of things that our millage is going to be a little bit stronger as we grow. We jumped 20,000 a mill this past year. 13,000.
Well, yeah, in a perfect world, it's going to grow a little every year, but we have things that prohibit growth sometimes, and sometimes market conditions, disasters, or whatever. But my reason for mentioning this millage increase is that it sure would make, number one, us, the city, be able to afford to pay our employees a little bit more than what we do pay now. In addition, to offer them, to continue to offer insurance. I mean, that's the other part of this, in addition to whatever revenue we have coming in and everything, because employees don't always get an annual increase. Sometimes it's been 5 or 6 years, sometimes it's been 3 years. We've made a special effort in order to secure more sworn officers, really to do something with police, and still that's made a little bit, I would argue maybe a negligible difference. So I just think we need to be more competitive, particularly for sworn officers. Your turn.
You did it again. I forgot what I was going to say.
Okay, I'll
No,
talk
wait a
some,
minute.
I'll talk some more. You're
Again,
making me talk
as far
more.
as increases, we settled this longevity thing, so everybody's going to get a little bump based on your longevity. That's in this budget, and it will be in the next several budgets. So there's a little bit of a bump there. And then, I do apologize. Wait a minute.
That's all right, that's okay. But speaking of longevity, and for folks that will say it was a pause for so many years, a number of years, and now that it's going to be implemented again or activated, I suspect for many employees, that's going to help them basically maintain where they are with the quality of their life. So
And subsequent to next year and year after year. So really, the more you're involved.
After year. Now, let me switch to non-departmentals. There are a couple of, if somebody's taking notes here, a couple of things I'd like noted, at least with my name by them anyway. Cruising the Coast has requested $25,000 for this next fiscal year. I think 2 years ago, up until 2 years ago, we earmarked them for $20,000. I'd like that noted, that I think $20,000 would be appropriate. We didn't get any requests from the MLK Celebration Committee. We didn't get a request for Juneteenth. We heard Mr. Guine's comments today. The Boom Boom Fund has always been $10,000. Last year, we upped it $2,500 to $12,500. I would recommend we go back to $10,000 a year. Christmas on the Water, we received a request. I think we contributed to Christmas on the Water probably maybe a decade ago, so we hadn't done anything, but we got a request this year for $3,500. I'd suggest we appropriate $1,000 for them.
We got 1,500 in them right now.
Okay. The library, this is non-departmental 518. Library other expenses, the number plugged in there was $25,000. I checked with the library. They don't know where that number came from, so you could delete that number if that helps. So you may have already done that.
That's for maintenance of the
Oh, the
library.
air conditioner
And
there.
track it separately.
Okay, so that's for the city's responsibilities. I got you. Thank you so much. I didn't understand that. Thank you. Then go down to ND 130, the Harrison County Soil Conservation. They're requesting $10,000. I would earmark $5,000 for them. Okay. The Hibernian Marching Society, what do you have them down for? I'd reduce that to $7,500. I'll incur the rash of my Irish ancestors, but I think it's fair. CASA, I think it was earmarked for $30,000. Is it, what figure do you have there? 15? I'd go with 10, but 15's good enough. Crime Stoppers, they made a request for $3,000 this year. This is a new request.
Hey, Paul?
1,500.
Paul,
15, yeah.
I want to ask Chief Mills about that Crime Stoppers.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah. Could you kind of explain to what are they supposed to be doing for us, the city of Biloxi? I couldn't
No,
quite
I know
get
I
that
do.
the
I
other
just
day.
had a chance.
Yeah, so if there's a reward to be paid or a reward offered for a crime or something, they're the ones that sponsor that for us. We can't do that, so they do it for us. Then they have a tip line where tips come in and they forward, they can come into Crime Stoppers from anywhere, and they'll forward them to the appropriate agency where that tip needs to go. So they do a lot of good work.
So it's worth the 30,000?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just one, okay. Because you need to know.
Yeah,
But
they
you have
do
to tell
a
us
lot
a
of good
good
work.
thing
They
or
have
not.
for a long time. Yes, sir.
That's what I
Okay.
want to
Down to ND 501, which is the Harrison County Library Commission. The number plugged in originally was 816,000, and that number's been revised to what? 750. I would. My recommendation would be that we increase that to 780. 780, correct. Under public health and welfare, ND 179 is the Family Justice Center with the Gulf Coast Women's Center for Nonviolence. They were originally earmarked for 20,000, and we gave them, I think, 10,000 in fiscal year '23, and I would reduce that to 10,000. And the other thing I just want to point out is they'll also be getting 15,000 from Community Development Block Grant, which is a different, just so you know, there's some additional funding coming out of there.
Correct. Last year, we gave them 30 in total, and this
Okay.
year, we're giving them 25 in total. So you still want to go down to
No.
15?
No, that's fine. Whatever you did was fine.
Okay. And then 15 is also coming from Community Development Block Grant.
Right, that's good. Okay.
5 and 20 is the same.
That's all I have at the moment. I'm sure I'll have some more questions. I appreciate your patience. Mayor, did you think of anything?
I'm gonna go back and change all of it.
Me either. I keep trying to read. Thank you.
George, you want me to come back to you now?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I didn't know you plan on doing that, so totally disagree with Paul. The first thing that needs to be done is, the problem we have is the Pass Road Library. The 25,000 we put in for $35,000 air conditioning and repair the building. Me, I think it's time for us to shut that library down. There's too much problem with that building, the building and the repairs and the air conditioning. To me, they're doing quite well, it seems to be at Margaret Sherry. They have all the readings and everything at Margaret Sherry. Everything seems to be going well at Margaret Sherry. And like we all said, and everybody that made a phone call to me, we don't need 4 libraries. So to me, and I mean, I don't want to just make these suggestions. I think we need to vote on them. Because if you do that, then you eliminate a building completely. If you eliminate a building, then that 750 you don't need. You need about 230 per building. So you give them 460,000 and eliminate the 25,000 on the maintenance. So that's the suggestion from me to the council to make a time to shut down one of the libraries. And that's it.
Let me just throw this out for consideration. You know, it's our library. It's our building. You know, they operate in the library. You know, if we shut it down, we're still going to have a maintenance issue. We got to keep it going unless we sell it. So, I mean, there's a challenge there. So, I mean, it's for the council to evaluate what the play is, but that's our building, and we got to, you know, maintain that investment. And I think that's, you know, what you're talking about as far as the floor and the ceiling and that sort of thing. I think it makes sense to us to you know, keep at least $1 billion. Building and the operations may, you know, change in some form or fashion, but I don't think we have a lot of flexibility in keeping air conditioning and some of these other things that have happened over the years.
So that land was donated. So that land was donated for a library, that reverts back to the owner.
Well, the
That
building,
one- Yeah, so there's the.
well, the
we own
building's the building. Yeah, it's an asset,
Yeah,
and
right.
in our books,
So you need to look into that.
it's an asset.
So, but it's just time, and this council needs to take a stand. If you're trying to do a lot of other things, to me, this is one of the major steps you can take. Still support the library, but just support it in the headquarters, downtown Biloxi, the one, Margaret Sherry, and the one in Woolmark is a lot smaller place, and it's handled a lot easier because it's inside of one of our buildings. So I say anyway. So it's not a lot of expense in that one, other than personnel. Well, that's my suggestion as far as you want to do. You need to vote on this. You just don't make a bunch of changes.
Well,
We
I mean-
need to vote on that. I mean, I make that suggestion to shut down the Pass Road Library, to make the donation $230 per library, which is $460,000. So that's my suggestion to this council, if they're willing to do that. And then the 25,000, like you said, goes back in the general fund. Yeah.
Is that all that you have?
No, that's just,
Okay.
I figure we're gonna vote on
I
this.
have a question on that. Go ahead. She looked, I think she was about to say something. Oh, okay. I'll wait until it's my till my turn. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would
So-
just-
So are you making?
Yeah,
don't
we're
thi-
just trying to do, I mean, do you want to vote on anything? Do you want me to just go further?
We have more
I
discussion.
mean, it's going to double step some of the stuff Paul said.
Yeah, I just want to make.
So,
Okay. All right. Before you move on, Mr. Tisdale wants to.
Yeah,
discuss
I
this more.
just, rather than motions and seconds during the workshop, I think we need to do that during a council meeting. And if we have to have more.
we put these numbers in effect at the budget hearing. We always have.
Well, it's just- but-
We don't do it at the council meeting.
And at times, it's been unclear. I can't recall if this clerk will mention that, but at times, we weren't sure what we did during a workshop, whether we increased something or didn't increase something. That's why I think we ought to do it on the record when we have a regularly scheduled council meeting. That's just my
This
opinion.
is the budget hearing. This is what we're doing.
That's fine.
I think-
Okay, and when are we going to have, when is this document going to be ready for us to vote on?
We're working on that as soon as.
No, I understand, but at which council meeting? We don't have a council meeting next week. Right, we still have a public hearing to go.
On the 6th, I think, September. 6th is a public hearing.
September 6th
Yep.
is a public hearing, all right? And then, based on the public hearing, folks have input, we can change whatever numbers we want to change at the subsequent council meeting, correct? And vote on all those changes.
Right.
Typically, we hadn't done so, but that's part of the process in case we want to reconsider some
This is
things.
part of the process,
After
exactly.
public input, thank you.
Michelle said that we can't vote, we can change the budget, but we can't vote on anything unless it's an agenda item in a meeting.
Correct.
That's not
It has
true.
to,
Well, so we can vote, but if we vote, it's just
It's-
ceremonial.
yeah,
It-
it's
it
just
really
basically
only-
showing where we stand on something.
Right,
It's
it's
not
not an official
like a
vote.
vote like it is on an agenda item. It has to be published for us to vote on something.
Right.
Okay, do you have anything else that you wanted to?
Okay, so we're going to have 2 or 3 theories on these things? I think the 12,005 should go back to the Boom Boom Committee. So I make that suggestion. So you want to write that down? It was 12.5, they suggested 12.5, so I think it should go back to 12.5.
Now, you can ask this council if we agree with that and if there's a consensus.
Say again?
I said you can ask this council if we agree with that, and if there's a consensus, I think then, yeah, then we would advise the administration
Okay,
to make
then,
that
I
change.
mean, and whatever makes it, put it in the thing. because
I have a
you can-
question
You
for
can
the
only put one of
administration.
these on the table.
Right.
When does the budget have to be published for public hearing?
The revenue has already been published.
Okay.
Hearing is on September 6th.
What time is that, Diana? Do you know?
So it's on September 5th or 6th?
That's a Wednesday,
That's a Wednesday. The 5th is a Tuesday, I believe.
okay?
Okay.
And do we have a time for that? Usually it's before the council meeting. Our council meeting's at 6.
It's 4:30. I'm not 100%.
Yeah, it's prior to. So I guess the reason I'm asking it, so if we decide to make changes, we can come back next week and do, I want to give, we have 2 councilmen that's not here. And if we're going to make big decisions like that, I think that all the council should be a part of the discussion instead of just 5 of us. So I'm asking, can we do that next week if, so George can put together the list of, if he wants to keep Boom Boom at 12.5, the list of things that's been discussed, and then we can discuss that as a council.
We'll update this list, and based on this conversation, that's what, this 1.8 million will be up or down, or probably up, and we'll get that list to you. So that will be, unless there's any things that will change on this, it will, but we'll republish based on these changes that we're talking about, and that's what's to be voted on. I don't think any changes that we've made will drastically, impact where we're going to be when it's time to pass it. So let us, we got our notes, we'll make, and get these copies, the latest and greatest, and they're subject to be changed, when it's appropriate time to vote on it.
Well, then, if you recorded Paul's, then you need to put, for me, Cruising Coast, they requested 30,000 in their letter. And they should get 30,000. They bring $35 million to the coast and the state. And you're gonna cut them $5,000 for what? It must bring more money than anybody in the world to cruising.
Okay.
And they suggested 30.
Let me ask you something.
they
What do you
said-
want to put 25 then in it?
30,000.
What did they request? What did they request?
We didn't get a request.
They got the letter from the city, from him, Woody. And what he didn't just say one to me, that's for
20,
sure.
25 is what we did last year, and I guess that
I'd
basically
say
request.
30,000. That's what he suggested.
Okay.
And the 3,500 for the Christmas on the Water and Children's Parade, you're gonna cut that?
To 1,500.
No way. And they requested that by a letter too. And that's what we gave them last year. This is not the first year. They did that
3,000.
last year, 3,500. And 12,500 went to 2,500 more because of the cost of the fireworks, was the only reason it went up. So that's where the 12,500 came from, which we gave them last year.
Okay.
So, all right.
As I said, we're going to make these notes. If anybody, now's the time, we'll republish it, redone it, and that's what's going to be on the table on the 6th.
In closing the library, you can put that down.
No, I'm not doing that.
You can look, okay, well then.
Y'all, you gotta, this is the budget. We worked hard enough for this thing, and, that's for y'all to decide.
So you're saying that we can't come back next week and discuss anything
Well, yeah,
further?
you can. We
and
can
make
between now and
changes.
then. Just, it needs to be,
We set the budget.
Okay.
That's what we do. We
Well,
work with the
I
mayor
know,
to
I know
do
that we
this.
set the budget. I'm talking about time-wise. I'm just making sure, because I did receive a list of things that were sent from another council person as far as suggestions as well. And that was one of the things that was on that list, is along the same lines of what you were recommending.
We don't have a meeting scheduled for next week. There's no reason we couldn't have another budget.
I think that
up
we need
next
to
week.
come back to next week and finalize a couple of these things, especially if something of that magnitude needs to be discussed among all the councilmen, I believe. Give them the option to be here if they can make it.
What time should we do that next Tuesday?
I'm good with regular 1:30.
1:30, that sounds good to me.
Does that work for everybody?
That's fine with me, but
Okay, I'm not saying we're leaving. I'm just saying to make,
That's
if there's
okay.
any big changes.
I brought this into Mike. This is a golf tournament the KC's running. They asked the city to be a co-sponsor for 1,500. And so I turned this in to Mike. And the Women Resource Center is the nonprofit that all the money goes to.
that's for
So
this year,
this is, right,
for this year.
this year.
We've done things with other golf tournaments, so that's for this year, FY '23.
Right.
So there's some budget, we're talking about next year, but we can.
No,
handle
we're
that this
talking
year.
about, this is in October, this year, 23. It's
Well, I
this-
mean,
I did this next year budget. That's what
would
he
be
asked me
next
to do.
year's
But we have margin in '23 to handle that. Same thing with, another golf tournament that helps things, but
So I'm just asking us to be a sponsor on this for the
I mean,
October.
we can pay it in September is what I'm trying to say. And there's some advertising.
That's what Mike told me to do, so I waited till this year to put it in there. So this is for the 24 budget. And it's 1,500 to be a co-sponsor, and you get 3 different holes that's sponsored by the city of Biloxi. And you're looking for 50,
Okay.
not
All right.
big as yours, but they're
All right,
looking for
that's
like 50 teams. So I want to
All
put that on there. It's 1,500.
That doesn't, what I'm saying, George, we got budget in '01 fund that it does those kinds of things. That's not a big non-departmental, it's advertising our resources.
Yeah, well, I'm going to just say wherever you have to put it at.
Well, I'm telling you,
all
we
the
can handle
money-
that, but it's not in non-departmental.
Everything we raise goes to the Women Resource Center. So that's where the money,
Yeah.
that's the
Okay.
nonprofit that they chose to support.
Okay.
So it's not, we have no paid employee, we don't have anything. Anything we collect goes to the Women Resource Center. And we still, that's how much I want to make note of, like I told Jerry Creel with the 27,000, I see that as absolutely nothing but $27,000 for nothing. You can write a program 10 times better than that program. They can't do anything. That's on that short-term rental thing. They don't find anything out, no more than we do. You read through it, it's all fees and that
Not
that are
budgeted.
paid.
That's not
Nothing but-
budgeted in this cycle.
Right, it's listed in his, Jerry said it was, he's asking that in part of his budget, 27,000. And so, I just think it's a waste of $27,000 to me.
Well, we're going to look at it, every one of those kind of connectivity issues and bounce it against, the benefit versus the cost, and
Well,
where it makes sense.
It's cost $27,000, but you get absolutely nothing from
It's not
it.
in his
All
budget.
you gotta do is read it.
It's not in his budget.
He said it was in his community development budget.
I was just informed that it's been taken out. I didn't know that.
You know, so I mean, that's where I got it from.
Okay.
Okay, is there any other suggestions that you have, George?
Yeah, I would take the million off the insurance money and put it back in the general fund. Go back to the 3.1 that we carried from the year before. Just another suggestion. We're trying to, I'm not voting for a deficit budget.
This is not
So if you
that-
can't balance this budget,
Wait, wait.
I'm not voting
So
for it.
you're wanting to take $1 million from where? What insurance?
Well, what the king can tell you was
Okay.
wound up 4.3 million. Last year we had 3.1. This is property. They shopped it and got 4.3 million. But when they got $192,000 rebate money
Okay,
back,
let-
so it
let me-
wound up at 1.
Let me ask, okay, so we got 4.1 in there. You want to reduce it, make it 3.1, and that's the limit of what the insurance we can buy? And that will be, if it's premium's over, we're going to have to cut something back.
I'm just suggesting.
So bottom line, when it looks at it, we're going to take $1 million out of that, and it's going to reduce that ending fund balance to make it look like $1 million plus, okay?
Yeah, be 3.1 million in property. You said it's in your office now.
Yeah, it's in our budget, but Byron, you take that out of the budget, then that's going to increase that, well, based on what these are changes, you're going to add to the ending balance of, again, this is a guesstimate, 1.26 million.
So,
So we're going to take it out of the budgeted amount. But, if it comes to a situation where it's 4.3 or 0.4, and we can't do without those coverages, I mean, that's a decision that needs to be made.
Yeah.
And we'll have to cross that bridge when it comes to it, but I think we're just, guessing, but be prepared to, when the music plays, to face it.
and the other thing with carrying all the employees, you're talking about over $3 million in the budget. That's
Say it
heavy.
again.
Carrying all these open spots on these employees that's not hired, that's over $3 million. I'm just sitting there. Maybe
Yeah.
you'll hire them, you're not. And like both of the, John Miller and they'll tell you, if they hire 10 people will retire. That we're not really gaining anything.
When you're trying to, you got to have enough budget to
And
do
we
it.
gotta,
If you-
like, we
yeah.
gotta keep hiring people, but I'm just saying, they had that many spots open.
Well, if
all the
we,
money
if we
just sitting there.
eliminated that, you should push your ending fund balance up by 3 million. Okay, but then you have every opportunity. The chief has 5 or 6 more employees. We're going to come back and do a budget amendment because that's pretty much what we're going to do.
Right.
I mean, it's all funny. It's funny numbers
No,
right
it's
now.
just the numbers that we're trying
Yeah.
to deal with, So, and I want another question, on the report we got back from the North, they had $34 million in the port fund on the book and that. Do we still have $34 million balance, or is that all tied up in that money for grants and that for the repair of the harbor?
I don't know where the 34 million is. I mean,
That was the
you want-
balance on, this is in our book. In the book from, so I'm actually, do we actually have 34 million?
No, not in cash.
Let's see.
You got 4.325 million.
In this book. But I mean,
No, that's
do we
it.
have 34 million? I was just trying to figure out, do we have that much money?
I think
Might
you
be
look at
tied
it-
into
Look at the
whatever.
fund balance and not cash balance, I think. Or you didn't fix assets, yeah. We don't have the cash, I'm not sure where that number is as far as the balance sheet. And it may be in fixed assets, assets in the 99, what is it, 99 fund? Where is that? The 90 fund. I'll research that, but no, it's pretty much, 4 or 5 million in cash at that point, at the port.
And the last one, this sheet y'all gave us last time, the combined statement, right? And right here, the insurance. Where did y'all get 14?
Last time, look at that same column in this big piece of paper where it says,
Yeah, but where do you get 14 million from? I mean, even now, at the highest rate we got going,
the self-insurance fund, it's not updated yet.
It's on, talking about line 32. It's $14,349,591.
Yeah, gotcha.
and our total fixed cost on that is 10.1. I don't know where we got 14 million from.
What's that?
Tisdale will remember that you just gave us a report of the last meeting, and in that meeting, you had an estimated amount that was paid for insurance, and it was 14 million some odd.
Those figures are not yet updated for fiscal year '24. We're still waiting on information from the insurance committee before we can figure out where and how much. But that 14 million is from last year, and that comes from the city's contribution as well as the employees' contribution and any reinsurance that we receive back from claims over our stop-loss limit.
That was the number that was in your report.
So that number will be updated after they had their meeting and come back to you guys whenever they had their meeting with Cy.
Yeah, we're meeting tomorrow, and hopefully we have, as I mentioned earlier, hopefully we'll have some better numbers.
I mean, right now, I have it as of last year, but I'm waiting to see if the contribution piece is going to change, because that'll affect the expenses on the general fund.
Right, and that's what we were talking about at our last insurance group
I
meeting.
never did see the 14 million, the total amount. But even the price, the total fixed of the insurance is 10.1. So I don't know how we got to over almost 4 million more than that.
Those are last year's figures. That column has not yet been updated.
Well, we've been dealing with him. I mean, he started bringing these sheets to us every time we meet. And I think I've seen the 14 million on any of them. I'm talking about from Cy. These are not our sheets. These are the sheets he brings us. And that's where I got the 10.1 from. So he never showed it where we spent $14 million. So maybe I just need to find out. And this is his sheet, right, Paul? I mean, he brings these sheets to us.
Those questions need to be asked tomorrow when y'all meet.
But like you said, we can deal with that tomorrow when we talk with him and
Right,
find out.
we will. It's almost a moot point. Whatever number is plugged in there from what Diana said is the best numbers we have, which is from last year.
Right.
We hope to have some new numbers tomorrow. Get them to you to plug in.
Well, my thing is, before you're trying to get balanced budget, these are just option things that we could probably do or look at to see if they're true or not. I mean, everybody gives us numbers, and all we can do is make sure they're right. Yeah.
Okay, anything else, George?
No.
Okay. Dixie?
I would like to see us give 10,000 to the Women's Resource Center, even though they didn't put in for it. That's all.
Yeah,
It's right here.
we have it going to them. It's on this sheet.
Did we give them last year? We gave them 10,000, did we? Yeah, there's zero.
Let's
to
do,
the hot-
no, this line.
Gave them 10 last year.
In there?
Yeah, last year they sent us a request. This year they didn't.
I'd like to go ahead and give it to them.
Okay. Well, that agency is the same agency that George Lawrence wants to do the Knights of Columbus golf tournament for $1,500. It benefits them 100%. So are we going to do 11.5 or just 10? Okay.
Well, the 1,500 goes, you just donate the 1,500 to them from me? Is that what you're doing, 11.5? I mean, that's fine. Yeah, but we still list us as part of y'all's co-partners with the city. So all we did, that's fine with me.
ACs give money directly to the,
And I have one last question on
except that when they were
Main Street.
their golf tournament.
How did that wind up with so much money in Main Street?
They're cutting back 30,000 off of it.
Yeah, but why is that much money anyway? We never given that much money before. 20,000 maybe was the most we ever give them.
Are you referring to the 50,000?
Yeah.
It includes 30,000 for their annual fee and then 20,000 for Christmas decorations for downtown area.
So the Main Street is in control of the direction, the Christmas direction, decoration? I didn't know
Haven't
that.
purchased any Christmas decorations in a while, so we need to replenish that, and banners and that sort of thing.
So they're buying $35,000 worth of new decoration, what you say?
20,000.
20,000. Okay.
It's gonna last 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is, you know, with the Christmas decorations, we last.
We need to decorate for Christmas, not a problem. We need to decorate. It's nice that you explained that. I was just wondering what the increase is from. That's all.
All right. Ms. Newman, anything else? Mr. Deming?
10,000.
Don't hit him with anything.
He talked a lot about the libraries, and I'll be honest, I kind of just brained it. I don't know. He talked to me about, before the meeting, about the branch on Pass Road. Do you guys have the numbers for that? I think you may have given us some numbers, but I just want to know what our usership on the Pass Road library is. Yeah, please.
Why should you be spared the pain?
All right.
I don't have it broken down with me. I can certainly get that for you. But in the past, and I think Sharon Davis, our head librarian, can confirm this, until the last couple of years, it was our busiest branch. But with all the problems of the HVAC breaking down or the boiler not working, it has had reduced usage because we have to close when it's 50 degrees in the building or if it's 90. So traditionally, it has been a high-use library.
Where does that use typically go? Does it go to Pops Ferry? When you close it down, where do those people go? Do they just go without a library, or do they go somewhere else? Do we see in the numbers? Does it reflect increase?
I would have to look at it much more closely, with that question in mind, because we don't really have a simple way of tracking where a specific group of people would go. We have seen, like I said at the previous hearing, our overall usage is up. So but there is, there's a fair amount of turnover in the population. We have the military families that come and go, and so they may have left the area. There are people who move into the apartments that may be transitory in that area. So it's hard to say, but it could be some of going to other libraries, it could be some of going without, but usage is up in general.
So can you tell us if the library on Margaret Sherry on Pops Ferry usage has increased or decreased?
Again, I would have to double check. I don't know if Sharon, you brought that information this time? Nope. We do have the data. I just, I wasn't prepared for the question. I'm sorry.
The use has gone up. I'm pretty confident that when we looked at it, the use had gone up.
Yeah, I would say so.
But I don't know if that's why I'm asking if you can attribute it to people going from Pass Road to Pops Ferry. No one wants to shut a library down, but if there's a cost to benefit determination that has to be made, I just wanted to have all of the information available to me so I can either argue for or against one of the positions.
I can certainly easily send you, we have a bunch of spreadsheets with all that data, and I can, do you want it for the last fiscal year for those, or,
I think the
5
last
years?
fiscal year will
Okay.
suffice. Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
That's all I have. I don't have anything else related directly to the numbers on the budget. However, Mike, Mayor, I know we employ lobbyists. Do we have anybody actively arguing with the state regarding the disproportionate computation of of tax disbursement between Harrison County and the city of Biloxi, or the cities in general?
Well, we do, you know, and Keith heard in the impact studies, we're actually pleading our case on a lot of ways, you know, from MDOT and generating, you know, the numbers we generate for the rest of the, you know, for the state. Just as an example, and, you know, we should have some consideration, I guess that would be, you know, with our delegation as well as our lobbyists, you know, hammering on, everybody needs to hammer on, especially during the session.
I think there's numerous counties that would get on board, and of course, there's numerous counties that would be against changing the way we determine how much money goes to the cities versus the counties. I think a fair way.
You know, I'm up, we're, you know.
Right.
We need to battle, for sure, and I think the lobbyists and our representatives, but, you know, I feel the same way you do. I mean, we're look at our percentage, you know, we're 20-something% of the county, okay? We do 30-something% of the business, and, you know, we just need to be equitable. We're going to be reasonable, not so much with the county, but with the state, too. I mean, we do business, and we can make more money if we have some incentives that we don't have to, you know, skimp, and you know, with the infrastructure, with services, and you know, certainly it's a something we need to take into
Well, and that's why I asked if
consideration.
we have anybody actively arguing in Jackson regarding that one issue. I mean, it would have a huge impact on our budget, right? The other thing that has an impact on our budget is the new contributions for PERS. Have we talked to any state legislators? Is there any relief regarding changing that back to the way it was, or reducing it?
Well, I don't think anything has changed, has it yet? No, and I don't anticipate, based on the lobbyist situation that I know, that's not going to be a. We could take it a lot better than a lot of other places. So I doubt that, you know, these other folks, you know, if they turn the screws up on what we have to contribute, that's going to be almost hurtful to.
Right.
The PERS board has a recommendation for some increases, but that won't be decided until we won't know until the legislation takes place.
And this is me. I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, that's why I'm asking, are we getting out ahead on this? Are we discussing it with our legislators?
Yeah.
I have nothing else.
Mr. Tisdale, anything else?
Yeah, just.
Almost like raising the millage, right?
No, but I have a question about inflation.
Inflation?
Actually, not a question. It's a comment. I was checking the Consumer Price Index. I believe I mentioned this last time. Just since 2018, Consumer Price Index has gone up 21%. 21%. I don't know if our revenue keeps up with inflation. I don't know if anybody
Well,
wants
if you
to
look at our
hazard a
numbers, and
guess.
specifically, you look at our numbers,
Yeah.
in a way, I mean, be careful, you know, maybe from 20, okay, because that's what we faced the last 3 years.
Right.
We did some jumping from 18 to 19 to 20 went down, 21, 22, and 23. So, I mean,
Well, when we were elected in 2013, inflation's up 31%.
Yeah.
So anyway, we can't blame that on you.
You can.
You could, we'd try.
You can.
The other thing, looking at the departmental budgets, and I'm sorry, I was looking at numbers. We got to wait on them. I was looking at numbers, and I think this was explained in looking at in the administration department. There was an increase, debt service increased $952,000. So I'm sure you moved something there, but I missed what it was.
It's the energy lease where we redid all the lights in the city, as well as the Motorola lease for the dispatch system.
All of that's 900,000. Got to be more than that. I thought
Well, debt service in there isn't mine.
because I'm thinking the retrofit or something wasn't
Yeah,
that.
no, it's not that much. I don't know where you get 900.
I'm just thinking it's not that much. I think it was maybe 250,000. So I'm sure you've reallocated some expenses to the administration department.
It also includes the new note for the financing of the vehicles. That's 500,000.
Which vehicles is that?
All the vehicles for fiscal year '24.
Okay.
No, fire trucks.
Okay. I think that's all I got, which scares me, but I think, one other thing. ClickFix, I thought that was a great idea. We hadn't heard ClickFix in a while. You saw an issue, were we looking to get that, or?
I looked at it because I kind of had an interest in the integration of that, those requests with with CityWorks. And the same thing with Jerry. I could probably write some things that we just, pulled out 27,000 for, but I do, there is a need, but I can't, say what we could do the right way with CityWorks and integration with, citizens with that.
I understand. Anyway, I thought that was
something that,
kind of a cool idea.
yeah.
and-
And to go back with, Jerry had mentioned about there's some interaction we can do. I just learned what we can do with the, and it's not just short-term rental, but just all in general. We don't know we can reconcile our sales tax checks to the businesses that we, that we have. So there's some export things that we can pull down that gives us an idea who's doing what as far as payment, at least to who, not so much the amount, and room nights is what I think that was the issue. So bottom line, it's on my radar, and the use.
You have some, City Hall's closed on the weekend. You got a little time on the weekends. Write a routine
call
for
you.
that. All right, that's it.
All right, I have a few questions. Mr. Tisdale, historically, every year mentions millage increases. Can you tell me the increase that we had in millage last year without an increase? Wasn't it something to the tune of 8% increase? Not a millage increase, but
The value of a mill?
what we received, I believe it was 8%. We almost had a built-in increase. So even though we didn't increase, and my argument against it is this: number one, I'm against raising taxes. Number two, our residents have already experienced an increase because of the increase in property values. And so they're paying more per year in taxes without a millage increase because the value of their properties increased, and so they're paying more money each year in taxes. So putting more on them is actually almost like a double tax increase. So I'm opposed to that. Number two is we have a lot of things that are in this budget that are one-time fees. And I know off the top of your head, you can't come up with that, but is it possible for you to put a list of those one-time hits that we're getting that we normally don't have, so that we know, going forward, what we're looking at, because we're in a position that we haven't been in the past because of these one-time fees. Can we get a list of those fees and, what each one is and the amount of it, and then a total, so we can see what we're looking at as just one-time hits? For instance, hopefully the insurance.
Non-reoccurring situation.
Hopefully, like the insurance, the 500,000 for the longevity deal. And I know that that's going to be something that will go to the next year or whatever, but I think the hit will be less each year, right? Or it's going to go up?
Yeah.
Okay, so never mind on that one.
There's actually a ceiling that, this year, some people will reach the ceiling. I think it's 2,400.
Okay.
But, but we can do that. I understand what you're saying.
It's just the things that are, and I know that we're, the vehicles and things like that, and equipment, things like that, just one-time hits we're taking, if we can get a list of that.
Yeah.
What is the?
Let me say that we took that into consideration because some of these capitalized items are going to be 5 years with us, and we're not going to be, but there'll be some that will, constantly roll over. Computers is another thing, copiers and those kinds of things that we do have a 5-year scope, and look at a long term. I hear what you're saying.
Have we put the money into this budget for the sale of the Sweatman house?
Yep.
That's it. That's included.
It's in the revenue. Yeah.
What about the projection for the parking garage for people parking in it? That's in the budget as well.
50,000 a year. Yeah. Right.
50,000 a year. Okay. So George mentioned taking $1 million out of insurance. Now, I'm not on the insurance committee, and so I don't know. I know that we have the 3.1 to 4.3. It's like 1.2 million increase or something like that.
Reduction of that. Yeah, exactly.
So explain to me what doing what he said.
Would do?
What that would do.
Okay. If you take that 3 million out of it, out of the administration
I know it
budget,
puts $1 million more on our bottom line of what we have left, but what does that do to us as far as our protection, as far as?
not until April, when we do it, when do we do it again? March. That's nut cutting time in March. And then what do? You either keep your coverage, we're okay with that number. But in March, that's, it's time to, to take a evaluation. We can do it, if you just want to
Okay.
feel good about it. But feeling good is going to, March, April is the time to be prepared.
Okay, so that's all the questions that I have. I think,
I've got one on that subject.
okay.
What the heck is nut cutting time?
Google it, it'll tell you. You never, never mind.
Is that your question?
Watch it, Mayor. This is what got Jackie Sherrill in trouble.
Did I say that?
Okay, all right, that's his question. Mr. Tisdale.
I do have a better question. I do have a better question, and that is, I talked about water lines in Edgewater State and recent ruptures with the transite lines and so forth, and that's the case with Bay Vista too. We going to be doing anything in either of those two neighborhoods? They need new water lines.
Well,
We need to
we've got a
get
master-
started on that this year.
Michael kind of just tell you a little bit about the West Biloxi master plan and some of the things we're doing there.
The very next neighborhood up is the Bay Vista, and we just moved some money from another design into Bay Vista. Is Christie in the room by any chance?
She is. She's hovering behind you, lurking.
Not to start the design.
Yeah, come on up, Christy. Thank you.
Sorry, I was half asleep back there. Yes, sir.
So
Bay Vista water lines.
talk about Bay Vista. Exactly what are we looking at in terms of the scope and a rough timeline, if you would, based on what you know now?
So we have it in our West Biloxi master plan. It's broken up in a bunch of different phases, but looks like it's going to be probably to do all of that area, about a $4 to $5 million project. So we'll probably have to do like we did Tanglewood. We are planning to put in the budget for this year to start on the design. I'm not sure about the construction because we're still working out how that's going to be funded. But from talking to Mike, we're going to start the design in this year's budget, in the next year's budget, FY24.
It was $80,000 for
Yes,
another job that we weren't going to do.
correct. We're going to move that over to start.
And we have not selected the company that's going to be the engineer yet.
Correct.
What will the design cost for Bay Vista?
It's really hard to tell.
Just ballpark it if you can.
It could probably be like the Wool Market Acres project, which I don't know the size comparison, but I think we ended up spending like $900,000 for that design. Because it's a large area, kind of
You're
like.
talking hundreds of thousands, right?
So
Okay.
80,000 may get us started, may get us the survey, may get us a preliminary layout, maybe a 30% design, but once you get into all the other stuff after that, it may be a couple $100,000, close to $1 million to do the whole project.
So from what you said, I'm thinking we're 2 years out before anybody's digging in the dirt.
More than likely, yes, sir.
And I'm thinking Edgewater Estates out there,
Yeah, it's
you're 2 or 3 years away from that.
more than likely, unless we get some
Okay.
windfall of money, I would assume.
Reminder, I have a ward meeting Wednesday, September 13th. I'm
I'll be
sure
ready.
there'll be questions, so.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Nathan,
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to make, we give Biloxi High 44 mills, the school system, that's roughly 32 million.
43 point something, I think.
Yeah. But I mean, it's 32 million. Have they requested any more money lately? The Biloxi school system?
0.2 mils. I don't know whether they passed that or not.
I attended the public budget hearing. Their millage is not going to increase. I think, I can't remember, Diane, if I sent you a copy then. Right, so I don't think the millage is increasing. They may be moving some of their millage around, but the millage total is going to be the same.
Well, we allotted them 32 million for the school system. And the county, was Robert talking about, we get them on 25 million. And people know where our money goes to. When you think about that, that's $56 million that we don't even get, that we collect. That goes to like he said, we got about 80% city and about 20% county. They get more money than we keep. The city itself, I know you love that one, but.
Wait a minute. No, basically, with Paul, it was a thought that I had as far as millage, and, millage is a dollar. You raise it 2 mills, that's $1.5 million, okay? We can raise $1.5 million in a number of ways, we hope. So, assessed valuation is gonna grow. Basically, as Nathan was saying, it's gonna grow. I think it grew, that we applied a millage to, grows every year.
It was 8% increase last year, I believe, is what I saw.
And we've got some hits that will be coming on. As I said, Arborview and you're talking about 80,000 a unit, 50,000 a unit on some of these new apartments, it's 1,200 units. Then, you apply the millage there. There's a lot of opportunities to grow taxes equal assessed valuation times millage. So, that's the equation.
There is, but I'm worried about the deteriorating infrastructure as the years go by in West Biloxi.
Well, that was all part of the develop a master plan that we continue. Look how long it took to do.
I know, but we've had the master plan for 2 years, and what we just heard is that it's going to be another couple of years before we're actually putting a water line in the ground.
Yeah.
That's a problem for people who have to 3, 4, maybe 6, 8 times a year have a boil water notice.
I would ask, that maybe have a skull session. I don't want to call it a workshop, but look at a 5-year plan. Where are we going to be in 2030? Where are we going to be in 2032?
I think you should do that. Do a 3-year plan.
That's it.
See where we go with that.
Okay, so before we close, how quick can we get these updates tomorrow? So can we get that emailed and then in the box too, because George doesn't do email, get a printout in our mailbox?
Hey, Nathan, the next week's election day. So, no, I'm just trying to tell you, Felix is not going to be here anyway.
Well, we'll get a list of Felix's
I'm just
stuff
saying,
from him.
doing all 7 here. Next Tuesday is not going to happen.
The public hearing, and by the way, I think Diana was saying, the 5:30 on the September 5th.
5:30, September 5th. Okay, so number one, so we'll get these updates tomorrow. I ask everybody on the council to go through them. They'll get everything to us. Go through, and any changes that you want made, please have those ready when we come to the meeting next Tuesday at 1:30, so that we can have those and have them ready, and then we can discuss what changes we're going to make and what we're not going to make. I still believe that we have to do some cutting. Just me personally, I believe that there has to be some cutting done. And then, you had something? They were. So, citizen comments. So, okay. Yeah, so what do we do? Just open citizen? Yeah, you can come forward, and I'll see if there's anybody else.
Well, thank you. I don't know his face.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brianna Rodolfich, or Miss Bree, as I was referred last week by Dr. Rusky. I currently serve as the Youth Services Librarian at the Margaret Sherry Library. I am here before you today to emphasize the vital importance of increasing the investment in our public libraries here in Biloxi. Libraries are not just repositories of books, they are pillars of education, enrichment, community, and public safety. In addition to brief statistics highlighting what Biloxi libraries contributed to this year's summer reading program, I would like to shed light on a few comments made last week. Firstly, out of the 9 library branches serving under the Harrison County Library System, the Margaret Sherry Library alone contributed over 1/4 of the entire number of registrants for this year's summer reading program. The growth trends and statistics are due entirely to the dedication of the staff who exhibit the utmost dedication to their careers. Our entire staff is determined to make a difference in our community with the limited resources we do possess, all without the incentive of a livable wage. In conjunction, the notion that our current staff members who are earning $10 an hour are only entry-level employees is a damaging and categorically false statement. There are employees that I currently work alongside who, after almost 2 decades of employment in our system, are only now reaching $10 an hour. I would implore you to give thought to their situations and, despite the financial hardships they face, their loyalties to their careers. Secondly, while I am a firm believer that every employee of this great city should be paid for their diligence in maintaining the quality of our community, an investment in literacy initiatives in the city of Biloxi can circumvent the need for increased public safety expenditures in the future. I would like you to consider the correlation between low literacy and crime. According to the National Institute for Literacy, 85% of all juveniles who interface with the juvenile court system are functionally illiterate. Furthermore, a staggering 70% of inmates in America's prisons cannot read above a 4th grade level. These statistics paint a bleak picture of what happens when a city lacks access to affordable and obtainable resources. Biloxi's public libraries have the opportunity to serve as a beacon of hope in addressing this issue for our community. It's also important to highlight the economic benefits of a well-funded library system. Studies have shown that for every dollar invested in public libraries, communities receive a return of around $4 in economic value through increased productivity, job creation, and improved educational outcomes. By allocating more funds to our public libraries, you are not just investing in books and buildings, but you are investing in the people and the future of our city. In Biloxi, our libraries have been facing budget cuts and reduced resources for years. It is time to reverse this trend, and our city deserves better. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate everything that y'all do. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Okay. All right. Mr. Lawrence, oh, you're good? Okay. So y'all will have us the updates by tomorrow, and then each of us will go through and mark it up and be ready for next Tuesday, 1:30. Any other comments, questions? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Let me say this.
Hold on one second.
We'll get this to you, and if you have any need to discuss with us, 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 at a time. I think the first 3 get in free.
Not 4, 3 at a time.
I'll be available to discuss, or we will. We'll have a little mini workshop.
Okay. All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
First by Mr. Deming, second by Mr. Tisdale. All in favor? 5-0.